Oh boy, we've had a busy end of the month here in January. First, it was Forspoken, and then right before Dead Space, Tango Gameworks decided to surprise drop a surprisingly colorful rhythm action game. That game, of course, is Hi-Fi Rush. So let's talk about this thing, what's good about it, what's bad about it, and what's just an indifferent fact. Now, as I said, this game was developed by Tango Gameworks, the same Tango Gameworks who made The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2. And can I just say, I love how completely off the wall Tango is as a game studio. They went from The Evil Within to Ghostwire Tokyo, which outside of being kinda spooky, is nothing like The Evil Within. And then went from Ghostwire to Hi-Fi Rush. All of these games are so far from being alike, and that makes it exciting to wonder what Tango was gonna do next. And I think it's beautiful, man. That's what is enjoyable about being in a creative space. That if something pops into your head and you think it would be cool, you just pursue that passion and go with it. And that's what Hi-Fi Rush feels like, and that's what it feels like Tango is as a game studio. But now, enough gushing about them. Let's get into Hi-Fi in a more in-depth way. So immediately the first thing that captures people about this game is the art style. It's very stylized and colorful and very reminiscent of things like Sunset Overdrive and Jet Set Radio artistically. And the art style isn't for everyone. I personally like it. I don't love it, but I do like it. And despite whether or not you enjoy the art style, anyone seeing the game in motion can't deny just how well animated Hi-Fi Rush is. Every motion is put together so smoothly and beautifully, and that's one thing about this game. All throughout, from start to finish, Hi-Fi Rush is dripping in quality. It feels like there were no cut corners and everyone who was working on this game was happy that they were. But what kind of game is it? Well, as I might have mentioned, this is a rhythm action game, and it plays like something akin to Devil May Cry, but on beat, where you get rewarded with extra damage or extra dashes and other benefits for attacking on the beat of the game's soundtrack. Now, if you're anything like me when it comes to rhythm games, you may sometimes think to yourself, that sounds too hard or stressful or annoying to not only have to play an action game like normal, but to now have to do so in step with a song. I 100% understand this thought, but the good thing about Hi-Fi Rush is that in most combat scenarios, you don't actually get punished for not being on beat. You simply get rewarded if you do play on beat. So even if you think you'd be too overwhelmed with the action of the game to focus on a baseline or something, you can still enjoy Hi-Fi Rush. But just as much as this game is a rhythmic Devil May Cry, it's every bit a 3D platform. There's a lot of platforming and collectible secrets and all that sort of thing. So in reality, this game is more of a rhythm action platformer, which sounds like an absolute jumble, but doesn't end up feeling like one. Another thing Hi-Fi Rush does well is its pacing of new mechanics and enemies. We see this done wrong in games so often that you have to kind of stand up and applaud when someone does it well. Hi-Fi never has you doing the exact same thing for too long, and so it manages to retain your attention and remain fresh over the course of its roughly 12-hour runtime. Now, the tone of this game is very Ratchet and Clankish, if you ask me. Very cartoonish, jokey, lighthearted, goofy, and more or less completely child-friendly. So if you pretty much roll your eyes at anything that isn't Succession, then this will probably be too painful of a game for you to endure. But for folks like me, who might enjoy a bit of levity, this game is done well and is quite charming. In all honesty, outside of personal preference issues like if you don't like the art style or the silly tone, the only semi-sizable critique about this game is that nothing mechanically is all that new or even necessarily reinvented. Hi-Fi Rush is more so a hodgepodge of ideas that have been executed to their peak in the past, but just thrown together in an amazingly animated and colorful world. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially considering that Hi-Fi doesn't execute any of its goals at a low quality. It's just that if this game did have some sort of very innovative idea that was was implemented well, then I think that would have taken us to the moon critically, you know? But I'm not complaining. At the end of the day, Hi-Fi Rush is a high-quality surprise from Tango Gameworks, a AAA studio game with the heart that you'd expect of an indie title. If I had to put a number on it, it's easily a very steady 8 out of 10 for me, a very strong showing, and I know it's early, but I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up making some Game of the Year list by the end of things. Also, there is a prominent cat in this game, so you know what that means. Automatic Game of the Year. Stray should have never given us the Game of the Year formula. But anyway, there you have it. My thoughts on Hi-Fi Rush. Available on Xbox and PC and free to download if you are an Xbox Game Pass subscriber. So tell me what you think of Hi-Fi and feel free to tell me how stupid and wrong I am in the comments. But until next time, I am Waifu Collector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai and I'm genuinely excited to see what hentai artists do to Peppermint. Goodbye.